Yo, 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 what is up, everybody? This is Unscripted Intelligence Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk about everything human intelligence, artificial intelligence, how they intersect, and how they impact everything from education to the workforce.
Welcome, everyone. On this podcast, we interview innovators, thought leaders, and change makers who are making waves and shaking things up. These live conversations are uncharted and unfiltered as we create space for what isn't being discussed. And always, these conversations are unavoidable.
Thank you guys so much for listening and tuning in to this live episode.
Welcome. I'm Michelle Ament, the co-president of the Human Intelligence Movement and the chief academic officer for ProSolve. The Human Intelligence Movement is a grassroots nonprofit, a coalition of people coming together to really prioritize human skills, the things that make us uniquely human so that we can succeed and thrive in our AI world.
And I'm Arvin Ross, your other co-host, and I'm the immersive learning designer and facilitator for the Human Intelligence Movement, as well as the co-founder for ProSolve. And we are kicking off we are digging into our series, Uniquely Human. Michelle?
I'm so excited for this next episode of the Uniquely Human series. I talk a lot about what makes us uniquely human. And this hot topic this week is all about wisdom versus knowledge. And we have three amazing guests today that are coming together for this community conversation to really tackle the difference between knowledge and wisdom.
Yep, this whole entire series, we will be spotlighting risk takers and rule breakers who are bringing to the forefront specifically what it means to be uniquely human. These are community conversations. So please, if you're in this chat, feel free to hop in. In fact, if you're here right now, if you're joining us live, go ahead and toss in the chat your name and where you are viewing from, where you're watching us from, and continue to tap in as we toss questions out to the viewers here, to you all that are viewing, and to our guests that are here live on site.
I can't wait to see if Dr. Mark is here tonight.
He better be. He hasn't missed a single episode since the inception, so he absolutely better be.
So shout out. Okay, well, ready to see who's joining us?
Let's do it.
All right, first of all, we have Margot Toppen. Margot, welcome to Unscripted Intelligence. Margot started her career using dance as a way to help children read the room.
Crazy.
And she never stopped. And so we are in for a treat to really understand how movement and play really helps build human skills. Today, Margot works with entrepreneurs and educators at career pivots, kind of helping them navigate what their growth and what actually matters to them. And she is making a case that trust and connection is the heart of everything that we do. It's a pleasure to have you here, Margot.
Excited to be here.
Love it.
Next up, we have Nneka McGee. Nneka has spent her entire career at the intersection of leadership, innovation, and emerging technology. And Dr. McGee is driven by this one simple belief that education is an awesome responsibility and a a really important promise to the future. Maybe you can help me with your quote there, Nneka. But here's the thing. Dr. McGee is really curious about what's coming next in education. And I'll never forget one of the first times that I met her, she introduced me to this idea of quantum computing and how it's coming to education. And so she's really committed to keeping teachers and educators in the loop about what is to come. She's recently written a book called AI for Young Learners, for families, caregivers, educators, that really helps build digital literacy and AI literacy through hands-on activities. So we are proud to have Nneka with us today.
What's up?
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here with you this evening.
Yes. And last but not least, we have Sam Densley. And Sam has a huge appetite for learning and an unusual superpower. Are you ready for this, Arvin?
Mm-hmm.
He excels at being bored. I mean, we just talked last week about how we don't give space for boredom. And here we have someone whose superpower is being bored.
I don't know how you do it, Michelle.
Sam is an instructional coach, and he's focused on helping educators simplify their practice, reclaim their time, and avoid burnout. He has a hot off the press book called Teaching Simply, which is less about an educational textbook and more about a trusted conversation with a colleague down the hall. One of the things about Sam that I'm excited to hear from is he believes the best learning experiences aren't complicated, but it's really about creating the conditions for real learning to emerge and a skill worth developing. So welcome, Sam.
I love all of you. Sam, Nneka, Margot, this is going to be a hot episode. I'm already feeling it. I'm loving it. Michelle, can we hop right into it?
Let's go.
Okay, because the chat is already chatting. I see Mark is here, by the way. He made himself known, so we know the chat is going to be popping off. While I ask our guests their first question, everybody who's viewing live, I'm going to toss you out this question first so that you guys can be typing and answer this question while we discuss the one here live. So the question for the audience is going to be: share a powerful quote about wisdom or knowledge. I don't care if you Google it or Chat GPT it, share that in the chat and we'll kind of bring them into the conversation. For our guests here, first question: what comes to mind when you hear wisdom? What is a word, or what is something? What is a concept? What comes to mind when you hear the word knowledge? Or sorry, wisdom.
Anyone go first?
Yes, jump right in.
Mine is lived experience.
Lived experience. I love that.
Yeah, the first word that came to mind is learning by doing. So I think that really kind of piggybacks on what you said around lived experience. So learning through the act of application and doing creates wisdom.
I love it. Sam, Nneka?
Yeah, sorry, my internet did a weird thing and I was gone for a minute. I think I'm going to need a reprompt on where I was gone for a sec. Sorry.
Yep. What comes to mind when you hear wisdom, when you hear the word wisdom?
Oh, man, I just think it's all of our lived experience applied to new situations. Like, I guess dynamic knowledge would be another way that I would describe it. Like being able to do things on the fly, given a new scenario because of everything that we've already experienced.
I love it because your definition kind of it touches the past but also reaches into kind of the future. I love it. What about you, Nneka?
Thank you. When I think in keeping our kind of human in the moment, or what our humanity means, what comes to mind is like sinew and substance, of like sinew being that connective tissue of wisdom that kind of holds it together, and prevents us from being or supports us in terms of our foundation. And substance is like the experience, what keeps us rich, what keeps us from making the wrong decisions, even if we're in the right places. So sinew and substance.
I love it. How I would kind of answer that is I think wisdom is earned. It's not to say that you can't earn knowledge, but I think there's a different experience when you're earning wisdom than necessarily knowledge. But let's start at the root so we can continue the conversation.
Hold on. When you say earned, like, what does that mean? Elaborate on that.
Okay, I was hoping you would not ask me that because I want to unpack it later.
Okay. So we'll put it over here on the shelf to unpack later and keep going. I will point out we got a couple of ideas. One in the chat: failing to prepare is preparing to fail. And so a little quote about wisdom here, bringing in. And Jennifer also, she likes, I think, what you have to say, Sam, about being your superpower being bored, because she talks about when her kids would say they're bored, she'd say, she'd tell them that she's gonna take all her electronics and things away so that they learn how to do something with nothing. And they didn't say they were bored very often.
Yeah, I have 4 boys. It's a busy house. We're expecting a 5th boy. So my kids, they'll also say like, "Oh, Dad, I'm bored." My response recently has been, "Oh, that's great. Tell me when it's over." And like we already don't do a lot of digital technology. We have a Nintendo 64, and our kids play Minecraft 15 minutes at a time, maybe once a week. And so like already that's kind of not the thing that would even be motivating for them. Like if I said, fine, you can't, play video games, they'd say we don't already. So, but there was a time that I remember that they were kind of complaining about this. I think I was trying to get something done, probably trying to write a book, which is hard to do with kids.
Yeah.
I said, "Dad, I'm so bored. We have nothing to do." And I told them, "Cool, let me know when it's over." And a little while later, all 4 of them were on their bellies having an inchworm race across the kitchen floor. And they said, "Dad, we're not bored anymore." I'm like, yeah, no, you're not. So like I offered them the opportunity to kind of think outside of the box and to be creative and to have a good time. And, it's fun. I think boredom is definitely one of those underestimated skills to develop as humans.
Totally. And how often as adults we solve boredom for kids. We figure out how to fill that void with something. And so this is like a whole nother episode, Arvin.
I know.
It's like we could just pivot, but I want to get back to wisdom. And I got a couple more quotes about insight or depth without a conversation, decision, or situation.
Wow.
And then coming in with a Confucius quote: "The man who asks a question is a fool for a minute. The man who does not ask is a fool for
life." Yeah. Wow. That is awesome. I love it. Thank you guys for sharing.
I have a quote too.
Go ahead. Yeah.
From Jurassic Park.
Okay.
Our favorite instrument of chaos, Dr. Ian Malcolm. And I'm thinking about it now because of some stories even from today I heard about when we think about wisdom versus knowledge. And I'm sure y'all all know this quote, right? They were so preoccupied with whether or not they didn't stop to think if they could. So one of the questions I ask like in my presentations and things like that, I mean, basically in a nutshell is like when we have knowledge, I mean, knowledge is instantaneous. We can take in as much knowledge as we want in this space. So just because we have this ability to gain this knowledge, wisdom, going back to like being in the sinew and the muscle and the bone, this is like, do we use it? Do we propel our insides forward or do we just leave it outside on our skin, and I look to the news of the day with business decisions, and I sit up here and think like, who's in this room? Because these people are smart, right? And yet they make decisions that do not seem to have wisdom attached to them. Is anybody? Am I the only one?
No, I 100% agree. And I'm going to just throw one more quote on the pile, but it's actually not about wisdom. It's about knowledge. And Albert Einstein said, "Imagination is more important than knowledge." And maybe those are some of the wisest words that were ever spoken.
I love it. While we're on the topic, let's kind of dig into this question, which is, what is the difference between knowledge and wisdom? We've been circulating around the idea of wisdom, and certainly in today's day and age, with the rise of AI and coming out of the information era into the intelligence era, this question seems to be much more relevant than it has in the past. So I'll start with you, Sam, and then anyone else, just feel free to hop in here. What's the difference between knowledge and wisdom?
I think that's a good question to ask. I think the line gets blurred a lot of the time in just casual conversations, but I think for me, how I would describe it is knowledge is the stuff and wisdom is what you do with it. So I think it may be like knowledge as tools, like tools to do a job. They have a very specific role and function, but it's up to the practitioner, the person, the human, to know what tools to use in which situations and why you would favor one tool over another. That's kind of where my mind goes about the difference between knowledge, wisdom.
I really like that framework, and it's putting me in this mindset of passive versus active. Like knowledge feels like this very passive thing, whereas wisdom is like being able to apply that knowledge, right? Being able to use your imagination to take the knowledge base and do something with it. So,
I love learning things, and so I have what I refer to as a pretty deep gee whiz bag. Like lots of facts in the back pocket you just pull out, but it's they mean nothing unless you know the context of like when to use that fun fact, or it could be totally random. And then that's not very wise, and it's not very helpful for a situation. But
how
discernment.
I'll go first, and then you, Michelle. How I've kind of always seen it is, and I learned this from playing Dungeons and Dragons. Do not nerd out on me, guys. It is a thing. But knowledge to me is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. And then wisdom is knowing that you don't put a tomato in a fruit salad. It's this idea that the information that you have about a thing, that's not the only thing that leads your actions and the things that you do and your behavior. But you've earned a level of wisdom or thinking about the knowledge that you have. It's more of a metacognitive adaptation of that knowledge. I hope that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you said my favorite word, metacognition. So I think, when I think about like AI right now, I can get all the information or knowledge that I want. And we could debate whether it's accurate, whether it's biased, all of that, but it's giving me a lot of information. But I think going with what Sam, both you and Margot said, you have to know how to use that. That I heard you, Margot, say the word discernment. So being wise means that I've had experiences, I've had lived experiences, I've had times where I can take my knowledge and be able to apply it in a way that solves a problem, that it adds value to the world, that it moves something forward. And I get really nervous right now about this idea that I believe we have left the knowledge age and we are in the intelligence age, but we still act like we're in the knowledge age. And now that the knowledge is at our fingertips, have we uncovered the need to build more wisdom because we didn't need the wisdom before because we were trying to just find the knowledge?
Yeah.
Well, and I wonder how are we going to build the wisdom? Yeah, like how does the wisdom happen if I don't have to work so hard for the knowledge?
Oh, yeah. Nneka, what are you thinking?
Well, just thinking about the AI space and my wondering is, I'm wondering if this kind of distinction between knowledge and wisdom is why we're having many of the issues with AI implementation in different environments, because you had a lot of people, and still do, that are gaining the knowledge. And it's like, I gain the knowledge, now I can do this, or I can write a book, or I can do presentations, but they don't have the wisdom and the years of experience to say, this is particularly when AI works. This is when it's necessary and when it's not. And we've seen the trajectory when it first, I'm not talking about the ban part. I'm talking about the people who are like, use it, use it, use it. And then it's like, oh, there are issues. Now guardrails. And now it's like pedagogy. And I feel like and then you have people, and I keep saying this, someone said to me, and I'm still in my feelings, when they're like, I don't even want to deal with AI because it's the devil's tech. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll come back. We'll come back. And so I think
Back on that one.
the stark example of the knowledge versus wisdom argument. Today, somebody who has no knowledge about AI and AI in education can go and look everything up, and tomorrow they can say, hey, let me give a presentation. I've seen this in real time. I'm not knocking it, because there's room enough for everybody. But I'm wondering what concerns or what can arise when we have so much knowledge, but we don't have the wisdom to know about the application and appropriate implementation. And that's why I think we're seeing the issues. And that's why I will continue, like, kind of being in this thing of like, we've seen this before in ed tech releases.
Yeah.
A lot of knowledge, not a lot of wisdom.
Yeah, I want to put a pin here and ask that question to the audience and to us here as well. What can arise and what can happen when we have a lot of knowledge but not a lot of wisdom? And I might have butchered how you said that, because I feel like how you said it was a lot better, so feel free to correct it. But what are we seeing? What are the results of prioritizing the idea of the knowledge or the information versus the understanding of how to use / wield that information? What are we seeing real time?
I have some thoughts, kind of as Nneka was speaking. My background is in biology, and so that's kind of where I'm coming from this perspective is from an evolutionary perspective, and regardless of kind of where you stand on that conversation, it could be, but there are indigenous peoples in South America, for example, that when they move to the United States, they are more susceptible to obesity. And the reason is because these indigenous people have spent their entire generations, thousands of years, where they've been really mobile at high altitudes and not a lot of carbohydrate resources, like not a lot of fruits. And when they have them, they would eat them quickly because they know that there's not that many of them. They come to the United States at a lower elevation and with surplus of food, and genetically, they're a little predisposed to obesity and diabetes. The way that I think about that in education is I saw an article or a post on LinkedIn somewhere recently citing some data about kids' test scores in math and reading, I think for like 4th and 8th grade, where technology was mandated. And at that point, the author claimed that when the one-to-one devices came onto the scene, test scores dropped. And while it might seem at the surface that, oh yeah, computers are the problem and they're making it so that kids don't read, I think it's a similar situation as I described earlier, but for teachers. I think that for a long time, teachers were very good practitioners and understood how to do things, and we're really, really busy. And we have so many things that are put on our plates that when things like, I don't want to like name drop to shame any companies, but like we have like tools that can help kids read. We have tools that will help them practice math facts. We have tools that will be a chat bot and help them do research and do all of these things. And all of a sudden, teachers had this surplus of stuff and their skills kind of just declined, I think, a little bit. And so I guess that's my kind of example of having too much knowledge, is like having too much technology and not having built up the awareness of why we would use it or why we wouldn't use it. And for a teacher who's burnt out, man, technology is a huge, like, oh my gosh, this is going to save me time. I'm not going to be so stressed. But then it becomes like an overuse dependency thing. Our relationships with students decrease, our productivity decreases. We get disconnected from where our students' learning is because we're just relying on like a tool to help us know like what their score is and what they know or what they don't know. And so, yeah, we can have too much, but at the same time, like teachers that understand those tools and keep up their practice and their skills, man, they can make their students reach even farther and do really, really incredible things with technology.
So what I think I heard you articulate, so correct me if I'm wrong, is really this idea that in a excess of knowledge, our wisdom tends to go down. So too much knowledge, and now we're maybe saturated with knowledge, and we don't even, it's like almost paralyzed by it. And so then wisdom decreases. And
it's like going to Baskin and Robbins and they have 31 flavors and you never know what you're going to pick. But then you go to In-N-Out and they only have chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry.
Yeah.
That's easy.
So it goes, Nneka's question about what happens, like as we're inundated with information, does it create less wisdom? And I go to what Margot said around maybe some of that also is now we are afforded the opportunities, the experiences to find the knowledge. And so then the wisdom, because we all said not wisdom comes from experience, but if knowledge is ubiquitous at our fingertips, then we're not even given the chance to find knowledge, which could build wisdom. Is that
well, or is almost like maybe an oversaturation of knowledge is almost paralyzing us because it's taking away our confidence to trust trust ourselves to reach our own conclusions, take risks. Theoretically, I also have a whole other thought thing going on in my brain regarding Sam's comments about like assessment and reading scores going down, and like I also feel like we probably need to be assessing on different things at this point. And, so is the traditional assessment score going down necessarily the thing we should be freaking out about? Or do we need to just be rethinking assessment altogether? Because it's a totally different world.
Well, that's a whole thing to get me.
Sorry, I just like
that. For future episodes,
That's how my brain.
But it's true. Like, are we holding ourselves accountable to what really matters? And the human intelligence movement would say, no, we need to prioritize assessing human skills. And, so like, that's interesting. What is an assessment of wisdom? What would that look like? How would you know if you're building wisdom? And I'm looking at the chat and there's some comments I want to bring up. Carlos, great to see you again, talks about kind of that reflection, looking back at a decision and experiences, and the knowledge serves as a reference material about the world and how things work. But it's that reflection and decision making that creates wisdom. So like there to me could be a measure of how do we know we're building wisdom, well, as we're looking to make sure we're reflecting and that decisions are matching reflection. Carlos also talked about the need for humility and empathy as part of deepening wisdom. And right, so maybe it's not measuring wisdom, but the things that build to wisdom are some things I'm thinking about as I read these comments. And again, how do we make sure that we're strengthening these human skills and building the opportunities to, flex these muscles of empathy, humility, reflection, judgment, discernment.
Yeah, I love it. One of the things that you just said, Michelle, when you were summarizing Margot's point, that I think I want to be this next question, which is you asked the question, how do we assess wisdom? How would we go about that? Can anybody speak to this idea? I'm paying you $3 million to figure out how you're going to assess wisdom in my school district. Share with me how you're going to do that.
I think it would be problems solved. So I was talking to, some people might know him, Patrick Dempsey, who's pretty vocal about higher education and its need to change. And one of the things that he's mentioned a few times is universities going away from degrees and certificates. Instead, they're marketing it, come to our university if you want to solve these kinds of problems, if you want to make this kind of impact, if you want to serve these communities. And I think that's a really great way to sort of measure wisdom is, can we give you knowledge? Can we help you understand these facts, these things? And can you now identify and then solve a problem, a real problem that needs a solution, not just make a problem so that you can solve it.
Or on top of that, I think there's the idea of presenting the problem and then demonstrating the ability to go find the knowledge needed. So not that the knowledge
way.
has to come first. Sometimes the problem can come first.
Sure.
And the assessment is how good was I at finding the knowledge needed to solve this.
Yeah, that was actually something our physics teacher did with their students, was they had them design a turbine and kind of where would they apply it. And so for us, they were thinking about, we have a lot of wildlife, like maybe we have this, water turbine up in the canyon, taking some water and powering lights so that there's less, accidents with animal crossings. And one of the questions that was asked by a faculty member is like, okay, how much is this going to cost? Like, if this is a thing, like, what is the price? And the kids are like, I don't know. I didn't think about that. And so I think that's to your point, Margot. We're like, yeah, here's the problem. This is a really good idea. How do you know how to actually make it work? What other things are missing? What do we like, that critical thinking side of things?
I'm wondering if we can quantify wisdom at this time, because I feel like wisdom is tied to so much to community, and that wisdom is so localized. I even broader. I remember this study, and I think it's by McGuire. It's a famous study where they study taxi drivers in London. Have y'all heard of this study? Mm-hmm. Where these taxi drivers have to memorize certain routes in order to maintain their positions. And over time, what it showed, and I believe it was McGuire is the researcher's name. Over time, they did MRI scans, and it showed that the hippocampus of these drivers were larger because of the memory that was, to use. That is what they had wisdom, right? What are the best routes? When this street is blocked or busy or something, I need to go this way and that way. And that's totally localized. In New York, perhaps, when you're riding subways all the time, that's not a wisdom that is necessary for you. And so I'm wondering if we can quantify wisdom or scale wisdom, or will it always be something we can qualify? So it's something that is unique and localized to communities. And then too, because of that, do we want to measure wisdom? Because we don't want to get to a place where someone's wisdom is someone else's deficit, right? Because that is something that can occur when we're trying to measure something that can be unique within localized spaces.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I absolutely love that perspective because to me that really does take into account the community aspect of it and the culture aspect of it. One of the things that I'll say when we're thinking about measuring wisdom, and again, this is not saying that we should, but if we did, how I would do it is I would probably intentionally put roadblocks and challenges in front of the people that I want to measure. I would find some intricate way to immerse them into some sort of an environment where I'm giving them a goal that's onto something, and then put unique, maybe even randomized roadblocks and challenges and barriers in their way to see how they navigate around it, right? That's that problem solving right aspect. But what I would do with this approach is I would find some way to get them to dialogue their thinking while they're solving that problem. So that what I'm actually measuring and what I'm actually accounting for is the thinking that's behind solving the problem, not just the problem being solved. Mm-hmm. I don't want to just give it a 3 out of 10. You solved 3 out of 10 problems. I want to know what is the conversation, the thought processes, the mindset. What are you pulling from other experiences into this experience? What other perspectives and vantages and points of view are you utilizing? What intellectual humility are you able to display? Are you able to say things like, I could be wrong, but all of that stuff is what I think would help measure if an individual or measure where an individual may be at with wisdom.
Well, I want to point out, Carlos, added into this segment of the conversation around assessing wisdom by the levels of self-actualization that let's say last in the community. So and that's kind of what you're talking about, that ability to self-actualize and be able to reflect is the measure, not wisdom, but your application almost of wisdom, is what I'm hearing. A couple other things I just want to bring up. Dr. Mark pointed out this idea that we're seeing so much right now in education towards the portrait of a graduate or portrait of a learner movement, and it's getting a lot of momentum. And that is a different approach to assessing through that authentic demonstration, similar to what you said, Sam, about a portfolio or solving a problem or a performance task. And so really, these skills that we're talking about can't be measured by a traditional test. They have to be measured in a different way. Yeah. So I think, there's a couple of the, Fadia says, when we manage to define wisdom and agree on what it looks like, the answer comes easily. Wisdom might be different for different people. And I think I love that comment, because I think one of the biggest challenges that we have in measuring human skills and human intelligence is first defining what it is and being really, really clear about what it means and what are the observables that go along with that skill. And I think she lifted that up really well.
I really love all this connection to community. And I think my initial gut response on the very first prompt of lived experience is like, I think that's maybe what I was trying to get at too, is like, this is about more than, it's about how we use knowledge within the context that we interact with. And also the other piece that really just came up for me just now was about knowing who to go to in your community, what resources to use, how to form the connections with the right people. Is part of wisdom too, I think.
I could not agree more. I love it. I know we had a comment from Jennifer that came in a while ago.
Yeah, Arvin, Jennifer, and we've talked a lot about one of the most well-known measures is whether you get a degree, and that oftentimes kids graduate our K-12 education and go automatically to college, and their mark of success is getting that degree. But I think what she's lifting up is that sometimes what that might lack that humility and that wisdom, because you can come out of a rough situation and gain real life wisdom, even if you didn't go to college, and you can have two trajectories where someone is wiser by not having that knowledge-based degree because they've lived life. And I think I'm waiting, because like Arvin, this is you, like lots of wisdom from just life in general. And Sam also the other day posted about the School of Hard Knocks. And so I think there's something here around experiences and what it means to be wise and how you acquire that.
Yeah, I'll add my little thoughts here, and then anybody feel free to hop in. The reason why I was so stoked about this episode is because I feel like for me, the idea of wisdom versus knowledge has just always been a tension in my life, in the sense that a lot of you guys know I was in a gang. I was involved in a lot of crazy things as a kid, and ended up making it out of there. Thank goodness for the teachers that really poured into me. And I feel like I gained a lot of street knowledge. I gained a lot of School of Hard Knocks knowledge, or wisdom rather, and perspective. But I never really got a lot of knowledge on like basic things that I should have gotten in middle school or high school, or just in what normal people get in having a healthy family that I didn't have. And so I oftentimes, because I'm in the ed tech space, I encounter people that have all of this knowledge base that I have I don't even have the ability to touch, but I find myself constantly leaning back into things that I learned when I was in a gang. And when I'm talking about wisdom, when we're talking about wisdom, I feel like wisdom is slow. I feel like information, especially in this age, even before AI, information is fast, it's quick, it's at your fingertips. But I feel like wisdom is slow. Knowledge is like what you get from books. in school and instruction, right? But wisdom usually comes from that lived experience. It comes from mistakes. It comes from reflections. It comes from relationships. I think about it as knowledge is like what fills the mind, but then wisdom is what guides the mind and teaches the mind how to flow and teaches the mind what to do. So I love this, and I love that this whole conversation centering around how are we defining these terms, and then how are we prioritizing them in education. Anybody else have anything to say before we start some of the other comments that people? I see the chat is just lighting up right now.
No, okay, just to echo that, like what Michelle was referencing is my two grandpas, my mom's dad, my dad's dad, two could not be different, like more different than what they are. One of them, literally a rocket scientist, worked for NASA during the Apollo program, helped put people on the moon. Yeah. Other grandpa, agriculture, like farming, raising livestock. Both of them I had the opportunity to spend a lot of time with doing similar tasks, like working with my hands, working on the land. And they had two different approaches. Like my one grandpa was like, I'm at science camp, like learning math equations to figure out how much fertilizer we need. On the other hand, with my other grandpa, same process, but we're looking at like, what do the leaves look like? What are all of these things doing? How do you know it needs this? And they're two different approaches, both brilliantly wise men that I'm grateful to have had in my life, but acquired that wisdom through totally different pathways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think your story just sets up that there isn't one right way. It is about experience, it's about reflection, and it's about application. I want to bring up what Dr. Mark said here around self-actualization may feel like an ideal that we are far from. Okay, I agree. But AI could give us the opportunity to redesign classrooms in ways that support every learner's path towards it. And that would be extraordinarily powerful. And I'm really curious what y'all are thinking about that. Do you see AI being a pathway to creating wisdom and self-actualization? Because we have talked about, we know it produces knowledge, but could it also help us with wisdom and self-actualization?
I'll let somebody go first, but I want to hop in here after the first person.
I feel like that the most important piece, if that's possible, is the human in the loop, the teacher, the relationship that still matters more than anything in learning, being involved in however the AI is being applied, that it's really gonna, at the end of the day, the acquisition of wisdom is going to be about the productive struggle that is that the conditions for that are set by a teacher. And yeah, I think teachers are.
You'd agree with Carlos when he says we want to microwave wisdom.
Yeah. I just saw that pop up and laughed. But yeah,
because Margot, you don't microwave productive struggle, like so. Right.
Yeah,
I will say my probably hot take this episode is I feel like I kind of disagree. I land in between these two places, but this is I think where my mind lives most. Is I genuinely feel like improper use of artificial intelligence poses an existential threat to wisdom. I feel like the elimination of struggle, the reduction of failure, and the introduction of shortcuts and removing the uncomfortable, slow process of figuring out how to get things right, which those are the conditions for building wisdom. Those that's the conditions for success right there. And improper use of AI has created a space where we can bypass all of that sort of stuff to get to the end. And so for me, I see it being used that way often. I feel like I would land in the area of it's just a threat. It's an existential or misuse.
I think that. Who's doing that? The AI is not doing that. It's the humans making the choices to include AI in ways where they're using knowledge instead of wisdom to implement and introduce AI to students. AI is not doing that. I can see we continue to hear these conversations like, the Terminator is already pushing us out of the way and saying, I'm going to do this for your kid, right? No, it reminds me of like when I was growing up. I mean, there's no phone. You talked about we're using the Xbox 15 minutes a day. We control. The humans control. AI is not controlling anything right now. We are making those choices. Now, there may become a point if we reach a certain point where we're not, but I feel like we've given up our agency too much. The AI controls nothing right now unless we're entering it on, turning it on, implementing it, in ways that make it so.
Yeah, and that's kind of like back to my point earlier. Like if we're going to blame computers on lower test scores, we ought to really think about who's telling the kids what program to use, like who's telling them how much time they need to be on the computer in the classroom. And that's teachers or administrators, or it's a person saying like, oh yeah, we bought this program, and so now you need to use it. Yeah, I think AI can be very powerful, but also to Arvin's point, that's the way that you get there, is you have to do the hard work. So that's what I've been thinking a lot about recently. There's a book, probably Cal Newport. He's an awesome productivity expert. He's the guy. But his book, So Good They Can't Ignore You, is all based on that preface. Like you can't be excellent unless you put in the hours doing the boring stuff, the hard stuff, the things you don't want to do. And that's when your career becomes a calling. Like if you're just chasing the things that feel good, you're going to bounce from career to career. You're going to bounce from thing to thing, and you're never going to be satisfied until you do the hard work of practicing the boring stuff.
Okay, here's what's coming up for me. Because I talk a lot about human intelligence has everything to do with AI and nothing to do with AI. Because my question is, why are we giving away our agency?
Well, it's easy. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Easy.
And why are we taking the easy route?
Because teachers are burnt out. Like we have.
And why are teachers burnt out?
We keep pushing on that. Like, I think there's my core answer is I think we're putting the emphasis on the wrong things in education, that we're valuing a letter and saying that A is what you need. Mm-hmm. And to get an A, you have to do these things. And so we find shortcuts, we find tools, we find all the things to make sure the kid gets the A so they can go to that school to get that job. So I think
sounds like you're circling back to that big assessment word again.
Like I think we're looking at the wrong thing. We're measuring the wrong stuff.
We are measuring the wrong stuff. And I think my big aha, and we're going to start to probably get to our unavoidable truth here real soon. Do you want me to kick her off, Arvin?
Yeah, kick it out.
So every episode we talk about like what's an unavoidable truth that surfaced for you as a result of this conversation. And we look to our audience to also share what's come up for you. Where have you connected the dots? What is a truth that is just unavoidable? So I think for me, what is really hitting me hard today is this need to really reclaim humanity, that this isn't about artificial intelligence. It's in the sense that, are we using it right or are we using it wrong? But centering us back as humans in what does it mean to be uniquely human, to reclaim that humanity. Why are we giving up our agency? Why are we searching for the quick fix? And yes, we can talk about K-12 education, but I think this is bigger than K-12. I think it's society as a whole. And what is it going to take for us to reclaim humanity? And what will happen if we don't? Keeps me up at night. So that's my big unavoidable truth as I think about this conversation.
Thanks for kicking us off on that. Everybody who's watching live, please share an unavoidable truth in the chat, and then we will share our last four before we close out. Margot, do you want to go next on what your unavoidable?
Sure, I'll go next. I mean, mine's very close to Michelle's, and really, I think one of the things that popped out the most for me was Nneka's comment about community. And so I think that does speak to that humanity point that you just made, Michelle. And just like this idea that, if the further we get from relying on, leaning to, building community, it feels like the further we're stepping away from prioritizing wisdom, I guess, or valuing wisdom, because I think it feels like there is a close relationship between how we're applying knowledge within our community, within the tribe that we're part of.
Well, and human connection is so a part of that, right? And the lack of human connection.
Yeah, that it's just more about how we're applying our knowledge within our life, within the relationships we have.
I love it. Sam, Nneka?
I think I'm at a risk of potentially stealing yours, Arvin. I think that my unavoidable truth is that it takes time. Like, there are no shortcuts. Like, AI can speed some things up, but really there's no shortcut to wisdom, and there's no shortcuts to things that matter. And you've got to put in the time, and you have to do the hard stuff.
I've got one from Carlos. We're innovating not to improve our society and enhance our collective wisdom, but to help us manage and acquire unnecessary luxuries, comforts, and misguided priorities.
That is a mic drop if I ever heard one. I'll tag in here and then I'll toss it back to you two. Something about what the three of you said made this phrase kind of pop in my head. So I'm going to try to flesh this out live time for my unavoidable truth. And I think what I want to say is knowledge can live in the head, in the mind, or the head, or it can live on like ones and zeros. But wisdom lives behind the eyes. Knowledge can be stored, it can be transferred, it can be downloaded. Shout out to the episode title. Just thought about that. Love that connection. It can be in a textbook. It can be inside of a system. But it's like wisdom isn't just stored information. Wisdom is what happens when a person makes it through experiences. Wisdom is what happens when someone reflects on an experience. Wisdom is kind of what happens when someone takes something they've known or something they've experienced and thought about that deeply. So that would be my unavoidable truth from this episode.
Dr. Merck's got one. He says, while humans are still in a position to influence the direction AI takes society, our collective choice to retain or release agency will determine whether humans will still have influence in the future. Wow. Yeah.
So good.
Got to be able to take risks.
I love it. Nneka or Michelle?
Well, I already said mine. Mine was about reclaiming humanity. Like, Arvin, did you forget? Like, this is my unavoidable truth tonight. Nneka, what do you got?
No, I absolutely agree with Dr. Mark Zeller. And, one comment that stuck out to me was when Arvin was speaking about how even in these rooms, and we've all been in those rooms where you're looking at people with all of this knowledge and are like, wow. But then sometimes that street wisdom is what gets you through. And sometimes those things that have nothing to do with our degrees, with our titles, it is what helps us navigate through these spaces, particularly when we're in rooms of knowledge and it's like, am I supposed to be here? Wisdom says, yes, you are. Right. And so I just, when it comes to where we are in society and with our agency, I just want us all to remember that there will be a point at which we can't control the levers. And so while we do control the levers, we need to be mindful, again, of even what Michelle said. What does it mean to be human? How do we navigate our humanity? How we respect our reasoning spaces and our ability to acquire wisdom. If we don't respect those spaces, we will wake up and those levers will no longer be under our control. And I don't think that's where we want to end up. So that's what I'm taking. But, it's kind of a parallel situation right now. We could end up either way.
I love that you said that, because even your takeaway shows wisdom. Because if we're just going by like data and numbers, we probably won't be able to connect the dots that we're going to lose the ability to control the levers at some point. It takes it takes perspective and experience to even see that is part of the possible multiverse from Doctor Strange right there. I love it. I love it. I love it. This has been a really
one more. Can't wrap it up. Fadia said, wisdom should be able to contribute to making the world better. No matter where wisdom comes from, if it is doing that, then I think she's saying that no matter where wisdom comes from, if it is not doing that, then humanity's in real trouble. So wisdom should be able to contribute to making the world better.
I love it. This has been such a dope episode and such a dope topic and concept. I'm super stoked for all of the different clips that are going to come out of this. And thank you guys so much for hopping in here. Before we leave, audience or guest members, can you do me a favor and share with the audience where they can go to find and keep up with your journey and learn more about you, anywhere way that they can follow the work that you're doing? Let's start with you, Sam, and let's go to Margot, then we'll go to Nneka.
I think for most of the people that are here, LinkedIn is going to be my go-to. I try to stay relatively consistent. Now that my book is done, I can put a little more time into that bucket. I also have a YouTube channel called the Digital Learning Lab. And so you can check that out, where I do mostly like kind of tutorials, walking through different products and things like that. My book is on Amazon. Right now it's free for a few days as part of the launch, so you can download that. It's been exciting. It's already in, I think, like 6 or 8 different countries around the world.
Cool.
So
say the title again so we can find it?
Yeah, the title is Teaching Simply, Learning Experiences That Matter is kind of the subtitle. Really, it's positioned around kind of what we're talking about, that like it is simple, but not to mistake simple with easy. So, yeah.
Thanks for being here, Sam.
Yeah, happy to have been.
Love it. Let's go to Margot.
All right. So I'll say the same. LinkedIn is a great place to start a connection with me. I'd love for people to reach out and connect. I'm doing coaching and strategic advising for a bunch of different projects right now, helping people in and around the education space connect their values, their purpose with actual real market opportunities. So I track market trends and I have a newsletter, but you can find out how to link up with all that just by connecting with me on LinkedIn.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And we are tossing these LinkedIns and these links in the chat live, and they'll also be in the bottom of the YouTube. Nneka, how can the audience find you and keep up with your journey?
Yeah, first, thank you for this amazing experience. I love the art of conversation and the art of respective sparring. It's an amazing, like what y'all are doing here. I love it. And I do have to shout out Carlos because he does remember this. We like randomly met. It wasn't even inside of ASU GTB. I was crossing the street and it was like, hi, how are you? And we like exchanged information. So talk about the power of connection. It was like so random. And that has to be like 2 years, maybe even 3 years ago. So the fact that you put that in the chat is like amazing. So yes, I remember you. LinkedIn, definitely. That's where I mainly communicate. And definitely want to shout out my Jumpstart Guide published by ISTE. It is called AI for Young Learners, balancing tech use with authentic off-screen experiences. And it's about using that hands-on learning with our littles who, for which AI tools may not be appropriate. So I invite you to check out our Jumpstart Guide as well.
I love it. You guys have such amazing resources. We're going to make sure that we link all of those in our YouTube video and our LinkedIn video when it posts. This has been such a dope, amazing conversation. For those of you guys who are looking to find out more or to see more episodes, feel free to find us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on LinkedIn Live, and on YouTube. We even have a TikTok where Michelle does funny dances in her cheetah print outfits. So go ahead and if you find any videos of that, please send them my way because they don't exist yet. but I'm pretty determined to make sure that those videos happen. If you are interested in sponsoring this podcast or joining with us and partnering with us, head over to thehumanintelligencemovement.org. You can find out more information about that. Michelle, can you tell us what's happening on the next episode?
Oh my gosh, yes. Okay, so next episode is coming up on April 2nd. So we've got a couple of weeks where we won't be broadcasting. So April 2nd at 6 p.m., we have 3 amazing guests, Nick Yoder, Michael Crawford, and Larissa Black. They are all really focused on defining and building these uniquely human skills. So check us out. Beginning of April. I can't even believe April is like right around the corner in a couple of weeks. And join the conversation with Nick, Michael, and Larissa.
Love it, love it, love it. Thank you guys again so much for hopping in. Thank all of you live guests for commenting and joining the conversation today. Please find us again on our next episode, and we will see you guys there.
And a big shout out to everybody who joined. Thank you tonight.
Yes. Thank you much.
You already did that, didn't you?
I did.
You totally blew the
You
end.
never say thank you enough.
On point.
Yeah.
You're right.
Thank you guys. This was super fun.
We can never say thank you much. We will see you guys on the next episode.